Hello, everybody. This is Howie Jacobson from AskHowie.com, and I'm here to share with you tonight a free web clinic on how to engineer an online traffic surge. So the exciting thing about traffic, about any sort of lead funnel, is that without it, you don't have a business. There have to be people coming in the door in order for you to have a chance to sell to them. In a brick and mortar world, if no one can find your store, or if no one can park in front of your store, or your store is so inconveniently located that no one wants to go there, or they don't feel safe there, or they look at the front of the store and it doesn't look appealing, there's no chance to do business. And the internet is pretty much the same thing. You need to be in front of a traffic stream, holding up a sign that's appealing enough that people who are traveling through will want to stop and look at what you've got. And the exciting thing about marketing to people who are searching is that by definition, they are hot leads. They are not just people who happen to fit some target demographic of yours, but they're people who at that very moment have expressed an interest in what you're selling, and they are excited enough about it to actually go on the computer and type and poke around. That's a huge amount of initiative that those folks are taking to satisfy their desires. So when you're working with AdWords, you're working with hot leads. And the nice thing about that is you don't have to be that great of a salesperson. If someone really wants something, then all you have to do is gain their trust, show them that you can deliver it, and stand out from your competition, and it's a pretty easy sale. It's not a big deal. You're not running around trying to sell, Halloween candy, the M&M boxes like the school groups would do. There are always these kids coming around to my house selling, garden bulbs and candy and wrapping paper, and I don't want any of it. And in this case, it's like they're just going around to the houses that are at that moment. The light bulb goes off on in someone's head, and they go, "Gee, I really would love it to get some wrapping paper right now." And then, boom, magically, the Boy Scout or the kid from band is right there with an order form. That's what online selling is about. So when you can master AdWords, you can end up with a steady, predictable stream of traffic. You know how much you pay for it, and you know how much it's worth to you. And there's no feeling in the world like a predictable traffic stream. It's not like some wonderful, PR coup, or you get, interviewed on USA Today. It's much less glamorous. It's much less sexy, but it's much more predictable. It's something you can build a real business on. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. First thing we're going to do is finding profitable markets. How you quickly look around the internet and find markets that will work for you, that you can afford to play in, that have enough traffic to support you, that other people are making a living in. And we're just going to look at 3 key indicators, not to say absolutely yes or no, this is a good market for you or not, but to weed out a whole lot of stuff that would just waste your time and end up being a disappointment. So that's number 1. Number 2, we're going to look at how to read the mind of your market. Just finding the market is fine, but the ultimate advantage here doesn't come from AdWords tricks. It comes from exquisitely deep empathy, understanding what people in your market are looking for. And we can do that by unpacking the keywords, and I will show you how to do that this hour. The third thing, I'm going to talk about this webinar I really think of it as the first of a series of 8. This is the introduction. I'm offering a course starting on May 20th called Traffic Surge. And if you find this valuable, you should pay close attention when I describe the rest of the course. If you're super serious about continuing with this, that will be very useful for you. And finally, I'm going to do a live demo of a 1-minute demo of a market viability tool that once you've done this research, once you have the numbers, the question I always get is, well, what do these numbers mean? Can I make money here? And I'll show you exactly in a minute or less a tool that I've developed that you can use for free online that will give you a very clear answer as to whether this is a realistic thing to do. So before I continue, I want to find out, for the folks who are on the call right now, I'd love to get a sense of what your current situation is. So I'm going to poll you. If you could take a look on your screen and select one of the following, let me know who you are, and that way, from the very get-go, I can target this presentation to make sure that it meets your needs. So you guys are quick. We're at 50% voting now. I've got to say, this is just the coolest technology. I did this call earlier today, and I was just gaga over this voting thing. All right, we've almost got everyone, 94%. Couple more, or you don't want to say. It's totally anonymous, by the way. 97%. All right, 5 more seconds. Last person. He ain't gonna give it to me. Okay, well, that's pretty good. Let's close the poll and let's look at the results. So, big percentage. 40% are people who are looking for a good opportunity online but don't have a business yet. That's going to be useful for me. Only 18% are using AdWords successfully. I will show you some things that hopefully will. I call it unkinking the hose for the 21% who are struggling, and for the ones who are successful, hopefully you'll get some tips that will make you even more successful. And then 21% are not using or have some sort of business, either online or offline, but not using it. So that's very useful for me. Thank you for that. I'm going to hide those results now, and let's continue. So before we go into the traffic surge, I want to explain a little bit about what's the big deal about doing these things to get yourself more AdWords traffic. So I'm going to tell you a story about a guy who actually exists. He does have a full last name, but I'm not going to give it to you here. I'm not going to give you his website here either, but he does exist. And in January 2008, here were his stats. Average click price, 67 cents, which means for those of you who aren't using AdWords at all, every time somebody clicked on his ad, he paid on average 67 cents. So 67 cents to get someone to his website. And in January 2008, he had 4,152 unique visitors per month. So somewhere around the late summer, early fall, he bought AdWords for Dummies and started reading through it. Second thing he did was change the punctuation around his keywords. And he sent me an email with this description, so I'm guessing he did some other stuff, but this is the one he really talked about as having made the biggest difference. Changing the punctuation, so just kind of unkinking the hose of the AdWords system, getting some things right that had been sub-optimized. Oh, and then he fired his PR firm because he found that stuff they were doing online was losing him business, whereas AdWords was all of a sudden starting to ramp up. So that was, he emailed me first in October, and then in mid-December he sent me another email with these stats. Average click price is now 3 cents in December, and the number of visitors, 19,997. So for roughly the same monthly spend, he was getting, 5 times the traffic. Almost 20,000 uniques a month. And this was not doing a tremendous amount of stuff. This was, as I said, just kind of ironing out the kinks in that hose. If you've ever, watered a lawn or used a sprinkler and the hose is just bent somewhere and nothing's coming out, or there's a huge leak in it, you might think, well, that's all I've got. The only power I have is that little drip coming out. When in fact, if you examined the whole funnel, the whole hose, you might find one area or two areas that if you just knew how to straighten them out, you could get these results. So if you think about what getting 4 times the traffic for the same price, or actually for a lot lower price, right? Because the price dropped by 20 times, and the traffic went up by 4 times. And there's a whole bunch of things that Mike could probably do to increase the amount of traffic even more that he's probably not even doing now. So this is just a sense. I want you to take these numbers, plug them in your head to your own